8 songs, 8 artists, 8 moments where lightning struck once, and never again. One of these acts skipped a doomed flight by a single day. Another lost a member to an unsolved murder on his own front step. One created an entire genre of music that still thrives in one American city 45 years later, and barely anyone outside that city knows his name. By the end of this list, you'll never hear these songs the same way again. Let's start at number 8. Number 8, Delegation, and Oh Honey. They weren't even American. Delegation formed in Birmingham, England, in the mid-1970s. A soul trio built around a Jamaican-born singer named Ricky Bailey. They'd already had modest hits back home in the UK. Nobody in the States had heard of them. Then, in 1979, Oh Honey landed on American R&B radio, a warm, mid-tempo slow burner. It climbed to number 5 on the Billboard R&B chart. For a British soul group with 0 US name recognition, that was a massive breakthrough. It was also the only time it would happen. Delegation kept releasing music into the 1980s, and even into the 1990s. But Oh Honey is the one song that crossed the ocean and stuck. Decades later, it would quietly resurface again, sampled by rap artists like Coolio, introducing the song to a generation who had no idea where that smooth, aching hook actually came from. A British band, one American hit, and most people who've heard Oh Honey have no idea it wasn't recorded a mile from Motown. It was recorded 3,000 miles away. Now here's where it gets heavier. Number 7 is a song about heartbreak that came from a family already living inside a music dynasty. Number 7, The Jones Girls, and You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else. Shirley, Valerie, and Brenda Jones weren't newcomers when this song hit. They'd already spent years as backup singers, for Aretha Franklin no less. When they finally stepped out as a trio under their own name in 1979, Gamble and Huff themselves, the architects of Philadelphia International Records, built them a showcase single, You Gonna Make Me Love Somebody Else, became a top 5 R&B hit. A gorgeous, string-laced ballad about falling for someone new against your better judgment. It should have launched them into the same stratosphere as their label mates. It didn't. The Jones Girls kept recording. Quality music, respected within the industry. But they never landed another hit at that level. One perfect song. One moment where 3 sisters who'd spent years singing behind other people's names finally had one that was entirely theirs. And it's still what people play at 2 a.m. when a relationship is falling apart. They just don't always know who's singing it. Number 6 flips the mood completely, because this one is about to make you get up and dance, even though the story behind it is stranger than you think. Number 6, Ammi Stewart, and Knock on Wood. Here's the twist. This wasn't even an original song. Knock on Wood was already a soul classic, written by Eddie Floyd and Steve Cropper back in 1966. Ammi Stewart, a former Broadway dancer from Washington, D.C., took that decade-old song, wrapped it in a disco arrangement, and released her version in 1979. It didn't just chart, it hit number 1 on the Billboard Hot 100. A cover song, by an artist nobody had heard of, beating out established stars for the top spot in America. And then, nothing. Stewart never returned to the pop charts in the US again. She eventually moved to Italy, where she continued performing to this day, but in America, she's frozen in time as the woman behind one enormous, thumping cover of somebody else's song. One artist, one song, one country where it made her a legend, and one where she disappeared entirely. Number 5 takes us back to Philadelphia, but through the back door, through a family connection nobody would expect. Number 5, Belle and James, and Livin' It Up, Friday Night. Leroy Bell and Casey James were songwriters first, hired at Philadelphia International's publishing arm, thanks to a serious connection. Leroy's uncle was Tom Bell, one of the most legendary producers in soul music history, the man behind the Stylistics, the Delphonics, the Spinners. That connection got them in the building, but writing hits for other people wasn't enough. In 1979, Bell and James stepped out from behind the curtain with Livin' It Up, Friday Night, an irresistible ode to clocking out of a soul-crushing work week and finally letting loose. It sold over 1 million copies. It hit the Billboard Top 20. For a moment, they were stars in their own right, not just ghostwriters. And then the moment passed. 3 albums, several more singles, and none of them came close to matching that one Friday night anthem. Today, it's one of those songs where the second you hear the opening groove, you remember every word of the chorus, and you still couldn't tell anyone who sings it. Now we're getting into the songs that didn't just chart, they built entire sounds. And number 4 might be the most sampled song on this entire list, whether you realize it or not. Number 4, Instant Funk, and I Got My Mind Made Up. You Can Get It, Girl. Before they were stars, Instant Funk was a backing band. Session musicians from Trenton, New Jersey, who spent years playing behind other artists, including on Evelyn Champagne King's hit Shame. They were the guys in the room, never the guys on the poster. Then legendary New York DJ Larry Levan got his hands on their new track and remixed it into something unrecognizable and unstoppable. I Got My Mind Made Up shot to number 1 on the R&B and disco charts in the spring of 1979 and crossed all the way to number 20 on the Hot 100. It became one of the most sampled grooves in hip-hop history, its bass line and breakdown showing up in track after track for decades. Long after most people forgot the original band's name. Instant Funk kept releasing music into the 1980s, but they never touched that peak again. A backing band who finally stepped into the spotlight for exactly one song, and then quietly returned to the shadows they came from. We're halfway, and the next 3 stories aren't just about music anymore. They're about legacy, near misses, and grief that most fans never knew existed behind the songs they danced to. Tonight is fine. Number 3, Chuck Brown and the Soul Searchers, and Bustin' Loose. This isn't just a one-hit wonder story. This is the story of a man who invented an entire genre and then watched the rest of the country only ever notice him once. Chuck Brown grew up in Washington, D.C., and by the late 1970s, he'd fused funk, R&B, and Latin percussion into a relentless, conversational, call-and-response groove that the city itself would eventually adopt as its own sound. In 1979, Bustin' Loose broke out nationally, a number 1 R&B hit that also cracked the pop top 40. It was the only time Chuck Brown ever touched the national charts. But in Washington, D.C., he never stopped being a legend. He kept performing that same infectious, homegrown sound, now known as go-go music, for over 3 decades, becoming known across the district as the godfather of go-go, headlining shows well into his 70s. So here's the real twist. To most of the country, Chuck Brown is a one-hit wonder from 1979. To an entire American city, he's a founding father. Both things are true at the same time. Number 2 brings us to a song so massive, it's easy to forget it belongs on a one-hit wonder list at all. Number 2, Anita Ward, and Ring My Bell. Anita Ward was a school teacher from Memphis, with a background in gospel music, when she recorded this song. It didn't just do well, it went to number 1 in the United States, number 1 in the United Kingdom, and number 1 in Canada. One of the biggest disco-era anthems ever recorded, still played at every wedding and every roller rink revival to this day. And Anita Ward never charted again. Not close. She kept recording, kept performing, but the wave that carried Ring My Bell to the very top of the world never came back around for her. It's one of the strangest phenomena in music history. A song this enormous, this permanent, this instantly recognizable, attached to an artist most people couldn't name if you asked them directly. Everybody knows the bell. Almost nobody remembers who's ringing it. And now, the story that ties this entire list together. The song you've probably heard at a wedding, a graduation, a sports arena, without ever knowing the two men behind it were fighting for their own freedom when they wrote it. And that fate itself nearly erased them both before the song ever got the chance to matter. Number 1, McFadden and Whitehead, and Ain't No Stoppin' Us Now. Most licensed, most played, most instantly recognizable songs of the entire disco era. But here's what almost nobody knows. In May of 1979, at the height of the song's success, McFadden and Whitehead were in Chicago doing press. They were booked on American Airlines Flight 191, scheduled to fly out on May 25th. At the last minute, an additional interview request came in, and they rescheduled their flight to the next day.
And if you're trying to make it, they
Flight 191 crashed shortly after takeoff from O'Hare. One rescheduled interview. That's the margin between this song existing in the world we remember, and this list looking completely different. It gets darker still. 25 years later, in 2004, John still played anywhere people need to be reminded that they can get back up. 8 songs, 8 artists who reached the absolute top of the charts, and then vanished from them just as fast. Some by circumstance, some by tragedy, some simply because lightning, by definition, doesn't strike the same place twice. If one of these songs just took you back somewhere you hadn't thought about in years, that's exactly why we made this list. Subscribe to R&B Rhythm, because the next forgotten hit, deserving its moment back in the light, might be waiting in the very next video.